Dear friends, welcome to this week's virtual Drasha. This week we have the incredible privilege to read Parshas Shlach, and the parsha contains one of the most heartbreaking stories in the entire Torah, the section of the Meraglim. Klal Yisrael approaches Moshe Rabbeinu with the idea of sending spies, a reconnaissance mission, which at first glance doesn't seem to be a bad idea, meaning at the end of the day, as much as we have this miraculous existence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu caring for and taking care of our every need in the desert, the man delivered every single day, the fire by night, the cloud by day, HaKadosh Baruch Hu literally choreographing and guiding our every single step, whereas that divine choreography and guidance will remain. Of course, it always remains. Throughout eternity, Eretz Yisrael would require a greater level of human intervention, of hishtadlus, of effort. And therefore it would appear that at first glance, Klal Yisrael said to Moshe, look, it's going to be great, it's going to be fantastic, but let's go figure out how we're going to do this. Let's go ahead and let's figure out the best way in, what type of enemy we're going to face, what type of cities we're going to face. So Moshe Rabbeinu ultimately again consents, begrudgingly consents, but he consents. And the Torah identifies all of the men, all of the Meraglim. And again, these were not just ordinary individuals, these were tzaddikim, these were good men. And right before Moshe Rabbeinu goes ahead and dispatches the Meraglim, right before he dispatches the spies, he pulls over Yoshua. And the pasuk says as follows: so this is in Perikut Gimel Pasuk Tes Zayin, chapter 13, verse 16. These are the names of the men, the names of the spies that Moshe Rabbeinu sent to scout out the land. Vayikra Moshe LaHoshea Benun Yoshua. And Moshe Rabbeinu changed the name. He added a yud. He changed the name of Hoshea Benun to Yehoshua. And Rashi HaKodesh comments and he says, why did Moshe Rabbeinu go ahead and make this change? Hispalel alav. The adding of the letter yud, the changing of the name from Hoshea to Yehoshua was in fact a prayer, a form of tefillah. What was the tefillah? Ka Yoshiacha me'atzas miraglim. Now remember again, literally translated, Hashem should save you from the counsel of the spies. So by adding the Yud to Yoshua's name, now Yoshua's first two letters of his name are Yud and then Hey, the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so it's the name of Hashem, and Yeshua, ultimately again, salvation. HaKadosh Baruch Hu should save you from the counsel of the spies. And the Lubavitcher Rebbe, Zecher Tzaddik L'Shavracha, asks an obvious question. Everybody asks the obvious question, which is, I don't understand. Moshe Rabbeinu had no idea that it was going to go so badly. At the end of the day, the Rebbe writes, Tzarech lahavin, hari ba'osa shak sherim hayu. Again, these were tzaddikim. These were tzaddikim. Ultimately, again, each and every one of these individuals, nasi echad, each of these individuals, ultimately, again, ish echad, each of them were miyuchadim, were unique, were men of stature within their respective tribes. So what's going on over here? Moshe Rabbeinu doesn't, think about this just a moment. If Moshe Rabbeinu knew what was going to happen with the Meraglim, he would have never sent them, right? If he knew that they were going to go and come back and deliver such a disastrous report about the land, Moshe Rabbeinu had no problem putting his foot down and saying no when he had to. Had he recognized or had he known what was going to happen, of course he would have prevented it from ever occurring. So Moshe Rabbeinu did not understand, did not know what the Meraglim were going to do, how they were going to act. So what does it mean when now Moshe Rabbeinu is proactively praying for Yoshua, HaKadosh Baruch Hu should save you from the counsel of the spies? As if Moshe Rabbeinu knows they're going to speak terribly about land. Yoshua, don't fall into this trap. Moshe doesn't know. Had he known, he would have never let it happen. So what does it mean when Moshe Rabbeinu davens, Ka Yoshiacha me'atzas meraglim? May Hashem save you from the counsel of the spies. And the Rebbe quotes from the Kutei Torah, says something incredibly beautiful. The Rebbe is quoted from the Kutei Torah, says something amazing. He says, I want to quote you, he says, Betam Tanas HaMeraglim. Let's think about this for just a moment. Let's take a step back, because the truth is, the story of the Meraglim is enigmatic on so many levels, but on a most basic level, the idea that the spies, great men, tzaddikim, who saw all that they saw throughout their time in the desert. They saw the Makos, the plagues. They saw the splitting of the sea. They saw the destruction of Egypt, the victory against Amalek. They saw, like we said before, the man and the fire and the cloud and all the other miracles that accompanied us throughout the desert. What's the pshat? What's the pshat? That they came back and totally just derailed this national dream. What is the pshat behind their disastrous report about the land? And the Rebbe quotes and he says something incredible. He says, Sheratzonam li sharba midbar nava mikach. Because in reality, the Meraglim, the great men, the tzaddikim, they wanted to stay in the desert. You'll say crazy. Why would you want to stay in the desert? He says so beautifully, Shebi yosam b'midbar yochlu lichios b'kedusha ubis naskus mikol inyonei olam hazeh mafridim mevatlim. If you think about it, the existence in the desert was a spiritual utopia. There was no need to involve yourself in any earthly matters. There was no need to get involved in any mundane matters. There's I guess not too, there were politics, but not too many politics, right? Moshe Rabbeinu was the leader. He was the Navi. There was that Kodesh Baruch Hu. At the end of the day, if you think about it, life in the desert was spiritual utopia. What did you have to do in the desert? What was your job? Well, what was your job? Your job was to learn Torah. Your job was to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Your job was to take care of each other. That was your job. That was it. That was the totality of it. There was nothing else that was within your HaKadosh Baruch Hu took care of the rest. And as such, says the Rebbe, ultimately, v'lachein lo ratzu likanes le'eretz Yisrael. The Meraglim didn't want to go into Eretz Yisrael. Sheba yutzruchu leirei mimadragasam ulis asik minyonei ha'olam. Because entering into the land, by definition, required a descent from the ivory tower of beautiful, unadulterated spirituality. You'd have to leave the desert. Leaving the desert means there's no fire at night, there's no cloud by day, there's no man every single day. There are fields that you have to plant. There's stuff you have to do. There's commerce you have to engage in. So the Meraglim said, what are we doing? What are we doing? We have everything we need right here. We have everything we want right here. Life, the truth is, it sounds crazy to say, but life in the desert was absolutely, unequivocally perfect. What more could you want? So the Meraglim see this incredible, almost like dichotomy. On one hand, we've been talking about Eretz Yisrael this entire time. It's all been about Eretz Yisrael, all getting to Eretz Yisrael. Now, we're about to go in, and they see it, and they're like, okay, it's great, but it comes with so much other responsibility that will distract us from spirituality. So maybe, says the Rebbe, the Meraglim said to themselves, better to stay out here, better to stay in the deserts, have this spiritual oasis for ourselves, and not worry about everything that comes with the land. That, says the Lubavitcher Rebbe, was what sabotaged. That's what drove the Meraglim. They were tzaddikim, and they were such tzaddikim that they did not want to give up the beautiful spiritual life they had in the desert in order to go ahead and conquer and ultimately maintain and grow Eretz Yisrael. So Moshe Rabbeinu foresees this possibility. Never did Moshe Rabbeinu think that there was a possibility that Chas v'Shalom they would come and malign the land, malign God, malign Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe never saw that, but he knew that there was a possibility that the Meraglim would come back and say, you know what, it's great. And in fact, they did say the land is great. It is in Eretz Zavas Chalav Advash. It's great, but Moshe Rabbeinu thought the but would be that we should stay here, because the ruchnius, the spirituality is actually better in the desert than it is in the land, because there are no distractions. There's nothing to divert our attention. So therefore, says the Rebbe something amazing. Moshe Rabbeinu pulls Yoshua to the side and he says, Yoshua, you're different. Why are you different? Moshe Rabbeinu says, one day I'm not going to be your Yoshua, and you're going to be the Mamala Makom. You're going to take my place. And you have to understand that what leadership requires is a need to put your own feelings, your own needs on the side, and think about what is best for the klal. What does the klal need? What does Am Yisrael need? And therefore Moshe Rabbeinu says, Am Yisrael needs Eretz Yisrael. Entry into the land, conquering of the land, the unlocking the kedusha of the land. That was the necessary step for national spiritual self-actualization. But it's going to come at the expense of so many other things. You're right. But this is the next necessary step for the klal. So Moshe Rabbeinu says, Yoshua, as a leader, you have to learn to put your own agenda on the side. As a leader, you have to learn to put your own biases on the side and think about, what does the klal need? What does Am Yisrael need? And says the Rebbe, herein lies the mistake of the Meraglim. The mistake of the Meraglim at its core is that they thought about what they wanted. And they said it was for the klal, but it was really for what they wanted. What they wanted was to maintain and to reside in that spiritual ivory tower. Why have any distractions? Why engage in anything else? Let's just focus on this to the exclusion. And by the way, there's a beauty to that. There's a beauty. It's not a wrong argument. It's not a flawed argument. If you think about it from that perspective, in the desert you have everything. You mamish have everything. So they say, well, why? Why distract? And Moshe Rabbeinu says to Yoshua, Their failure is a failure in leadership. What I'm concerned with the Meraglim, again, Moshe Rabbeinu never foresaw what was going to happen. Otherwise, he would have never sent them. What he foresaw was the possibility that there would be a lack of visionary leadership. Because visionary leadership requires that you look for what is best for the klal and not just what is best for yourself. He was concerned that the Meraglim would think what is best for us, and maybe they're right, by the way. What's best for us, individuals, even our clans, is to stay in the desert. Uninterrupted spirituality. But Yoshua, you're the leader. You're going to be the leader. You already are a leader, and one day you are going to be the leader. You must think about what is best for the cloud. This is reminiscent. The Lubavitcher brings out at the end of Chumash Bereshis, when Yosef dies, that Yosef was buried in Egypt. And the Rebbe explains that in fact Yosef really wanted to be buried in Eretz Yisrael. He wanted to be buried in Canaan. And Yaakov Avinu said to him, you need to stay in Mitzrayim. Because the knowledge that you're here with the people during their days of slavery, during their generations, during the centuries of slavery, will give them chizik. That Yosef, you have to understand that you have to give up what you want as an individual for the benefit, for the betterment, and for the advancement of the klal. That's what it means to be a leader. I put my own needs on the side because there are things that need to get done for the klal. I put my own agenda on the side because there are certain things that are better for the collective. That, says the Rebbe, is the pshat. Not that Hashem should save you from the disastrous report to the Meraglim. That's not it. Moshe Rabbeinu, this foreboding sense, they're going to want to stay in the deserts because it's better for them. HaKadosh Baruch Hu should save you from that narrow thinking. HaKadosh Baruch Hu should save you from thinking just as an individual and not thinking about the klal. HaKadosh Baruch Hu should give you the chizik, the strength. Hashem should save you from ultimately, again, just seeing a narrow view that suits your own needs. And I should be a leader who's able to see the needs of the klal. And dear friends, this is not just a din in leadership, it's a din in all of us. So many times there's a competing agenda between what I want and what the klal wants. I'll give you a simple example. I want to commit an Avera, right? There are Averas I want to do. I said, well, there are Averas I want to do. And they suit me. They give me pleasure. But we exist as part of one beautiful spiritual organism. And so what I do negatively impacts the klal. So the question is, what comes first? My needs or the impact of my actions upon my people? And on the positive as well. There are so many things that we think about doing, want to do, think about, aspire to do, but just don't do it. But when I abstain from some unit of personal spiritual growth, I'm not just depriving myself, I'm depriving the klal, I'm depriving the collective. Sometimes the way to motivate ourselves, either to abstain from certain things or to do certain things, is to recognize that we don't exist in a vacuum. I don't live in a silo. I'm part of the most beautiful living entity, an organism that is connected on every single level called Klal Yisrael. And what I do has an effect, and what I do has an impact. And I don't have the luxury of thinking just as an individual, but I must think as part of the collective. All of my decisions need to be made through the lens that I am a part of Am Yisrael. You know, we saw the beautiful video that was circulating this week with the Daf Yomi Siyum, with our holy soldiers in Rafa. You know, Baruch Hashem, we have a beautiful Daf Yomi share here, and we made a Siyum as well. We didn't make our official Siyum, but we finished the Masechta. I thought, like, what an incredible moment. That here, again, literally, we're all being Messiahim. And I realized in that moment that my Torah is their Torah is my Torah, and we are all part of this unified beating heart called Klal Yisrael. We have to bring that mindset to the way we live our daily lives. That what I do and what I don't do is not just about me, but impacts the Klal in its entirety. Moshe Rabbeinu was telling Yoshua, resist the temptation to think as an individual and think in a way that just suits your needs, and remember that you're part of the Klal. In the same way that Yaakov told Yosef, sometimes in life you have to give up what you want as an individual for the sake of your people. Dear friends, let us begin to think that same way as well. It's not just about what I want out of life. It's not just about what I want, what I need, but it's really about what can I do, what can I contribute, and how can I help my people. Wishing everyone a good Erev Shabbos and a beautiful Shabbos Kodesh.